Hey, what's up, everybody? Tommy Meyer here. Welcome to Tommy Tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another gerrymandering alert. Woo, 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 woo. Yes, I know, it's been months since my last gerrymandering alert, and I should have gotten a sound effect then, but I didn't, so sue me. Also, this joke wouldn't have worked without me not having a sound effect, and I'm kind of short on material, so give me a break. Tonight, we're going to talk about New York. We're at the point in the gerrymandering saga where Democrats are basically striking back at Republicans for their own gerrymandering, and nowhere is that more apparent than in the Empire State. Now, I often say that Democrats gerrymander too, it's just Republicans are better at it. Take Illinois, for example. Illinois is the home of the bacon-mander. A bacon-mander is a very real term. Look up Common Cause versus Ruco or Rucho. I don't know how to say it. Doesn't matter. A bacon-mander is basically an implausible gerrymander that creates a number of long, thin districts said to resemble strips of bacon, like this one. This is Illinois' 3rd district. Bacon-manders connect voters in different parts of a state, basically to achieve a political means, or connect voters to Kevin Bacon. By the way, the declination on a bacon-mander, 6 degrees. Boom, baby, that is a declination joke. That is hard to do, okay? That one is for the redistricting nerds out there. If you don't get that joke, first of all, congratulations, you have a life. But secondly, basically, declination is a way of measuring gerrymandering by looking at each party's average vote share in the districts that they win, measuring the difference between the two. If one party is winning by lopsided margins, there's likely some gerrymandering going on. Paradoxically, the party winning by the lopsided margins is often the one being gerrymandered against, as the whole point of gerrymandering is to pack as many of your opponent's voters into as few districts as possible. Declination is expressed in terms of an angle. The larger it is, the more likely it's a gerrymander. Here is what the declination looks like for Illinois. As you can see, Republicans are winning by lopsided margins in just a couple of districts, whereas Democrats are spread out very efficiently across as many districts as possible. Now compare that to Michigan, a state that is considered a real success story of this redistricting cycle. As you can see, there's almost no difference between the Democratic and Republican vote shares in Michigan. It's almost a straight line. So, now that you understand declination, yeah, you're right, it's not really that good of a joke, but it did make you learn something. Anyway, Illinois' map is obviously an egregious gerrymander, but shortly after it was released, Dave Wasserman of the Cook Political Report pointed out that it was actually pretty sloppy. Democrats could have made a couple of different choices to make their districts a bit safer, but Democrats in New York did not make the same mistake. They drew what the New York Times has dubbed a master class in gerrymandering. The map should give Democrats 20 seats to Republicans 4, with 2 highly competitive seats that also lean towards Democrats, netting them an extra 3 seats. Now, New York is obviously a very Democratic state. Biden won about 61% of the vote there, but Democrats would win 85% of the seats. So, how did they do it? Well, let's start with my home district of Long Island, New York's first, the penis of New York. At least it's not flaccid. Democrats move New York's first from an R plus 10 to a D plus 6. And they do it by basically splitting up voters in the North and South Shore and extending the district all the way out into Nassau County, picking up voters north of Islip and around Lindenhurst and Wyandanch. Now, moving farther west, get out of there, penis. Moving farther west, we have the 3rd district, the base of the penis of New York. The 3rd district snakes all the way from Smithtown out on Long Island all the way up to SUNY Purchase in upstate New York. As a kid, I used to go to the Smith Haven Mall a lot, hang out at the Hot Topic, maybe pop on over to the Abercrombie and stare at the hot people. They wouldn't let me in because I said things like Papillon, but I got a good, you could see them from there. Now, SUNY Purchase, where a lot of my friends went to college, that was a good hour and a half to 2 hours away from me, depending on if there was traffic. There's always traffic. In fact, to get from one end of this district to the other takes an hour and 24 minutes. Also, make sure you have some money because you're going to have to pay some tolls. And try not to think about, while you're driving across this insane, ridiculous district, try not to think about that the people who made the district are also making you pay them to get across it. because that's just going to make you mad, and we don't want that. By the way, the 3rd district stretches through 5 separate counties. Definitely got some balls. Speaking of balls, Staten Island. The balls of our New York penis. Staten Island is a bit of an outlier in that it is the only borough that consistently votes Republican. Let's just say they don't got blue balls, if you know what I mean. This is the best I got. In 2020, Staten Island voted for Trump by 15 points. Now, Staten Island is currently represented by Nicole Maliotakis, who, fun fact, was one of the 147 Republicans who voted to overturn the election last year. Now, she may not have been able to overturn the will of the voters, but Democrats seem to have succeeded where she failed, because they've moved her district from an R plus 13 to a D plus 7. And they do it by connecting Staten Island to parts of South Brooklyn, going all the way up into Park Slope, which is smart, because if anybody challenges the map, they can just say they drew the district ironically. But my favorite thing about this district is not so much the district itself as the district that it creates. Let me show you what I mean. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing New York's 10th district, stretching all the way from Morningside Heights, way up there in Upper Manhattan, all the way down to Bensonhurst in South Brooklyn. Essentially, you're going from Columbia University down to close to Coney Island. That is an hour and 20 minute on the D train. The D train's an express! By the way, fun fact, the Statue of Liberty actually lives in this district. And apparently, she voted for Joe Biden. My guess is she had some problems with Trump's stance on immigration. Moving on. The town of Putnam Valley, New York. A small, quaint village about an hour north of New York City, which the New York Times described as quiet, rustic, and old-timey. What, pray tell, do the residents of this small town have to do with people in the Bronx? Well, they now share a congressional district, New York's 16th, which stretches all the way from the Bronx up to the Putnam Valley. This means that for this small, little conservative town, they'll now be represented by Democratic Socialist Jamal Bowman. Because sure, that makes sense. Finally, New York lost a seat in this year's reapportionment, and because most of its population loss happened upstate, it makes sense that they would eliminate a seat up there. But Democrats have taken it one step farther. This is the 24th Congressional District, which stretches across 15 counties, going all the way from Niagara up to Jefferson County. And also, notice how it carefully cuts around those blue areas. That is not an accident. They try to pack as many Republican voters as they can into this district so that they can create for themselves 1, 2, 3 Democratic districts and 1, 2 Republican districts. So not only do they eliminate a Republican seat upstate, they also flipped another seat into their column. The old map had 2 Democratic districts, 3 Republican districts, and 1 highly competitive district. All in all, this is quite a remarkable gerrymander, and it joins other Democratic gerrymanders like Maryland, New Mexico, and of course, Illinois. Democrats have been really aggressive this year with gerrymandering. In many ways, they've been more aggressive than Republicans. Republicans have been more focused on defensive gerrymanders, basically taking already red seats and making them just a little bit redder, making them safer. Plus, the truth is that the maps were already so gerrymandered in Republicans' favor that there just wasn't much more that they could squeeze out of them. Though it's not for lack of trying. Republicans did attempt a really aggressive gerrymander in Ohio, where they were able to cut up Cincinnati's Hamilton County into 3 Republican-leaning districts. Hamilton County voted for Biden by 16 points, by the way. Now, Ohio's map was struck down. If you're a Republican, that is unfortunate. It was struck down as an illegal gerrymander. Similarly, North Carolina Republicans drew themselves a map where they could win up to 11 out of the state's 14 seats, but that map was also struck down. Alabama's map was struck down for violating the Voting Rights Act because they only drew 1 majority black district when they could have drawn 2. Unfortunately, though, the Supreme Court unstruck down, or struck up, which is, I believe, the technical term for it, that map. So it's going to likely be in effect for 2022. When it's all said and done, it looks like Democrats are actually going to gain about 2 or 3 seats from redistricting this year, a far cry from what many, including me, would have predicted even a few months ago. But any redistricting analysis that doesn't take into account how gerrymandered the maps already were is going to fail to capture how skewed they will be moving forward. You know, just because Democrats gain 2 or 3 seats relative to last decade does not mean that they have a 2 to 3 seat advantage. That's why I did my own little analysis where I compared each state's map to what would be considered a fair map. Now, for fair maps, I tried to be as objective as possible. I just used the map with the lowest efficiency gap. Efficiency gap is a way of it's a common way of measuring partisan gerrymandering. For more on the efficiency gap, I recommend you check out my last video. It features Jill Stein, so probably not a great selling point, but check it out anyway. Anyway, according to my analysis, Democrats have closed the gap quite a bit. Republicans have gained 13 seats from gerrymandering, and Democrats have gained 10. But of course, we are not done yet, and there's one big state left on the map: Florida. Florida is the biggest pickup opportunity left for Republicans. Republicans have full control of redistricting in the state, and the state has a constitutional amendment that actually bans partisan gerrymandering. Now, it's been an open question of how aggressive Republicans are going to be in Florida, especially since the state Supreme Court is overwhelmingly conservative. Last month, the state Senate voted to advance a map that was surprisingly fair. It passed on a bipartisan basis, and it would have given Republicans 14 seats compared to Democrats 8, with 6 highly competitive seats. But of course, because this is Florida, that is not the end of the story. Enter Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. DeSantis took the extraordinary step of introducing a map of his own, and DeSantis' map is highly biased towards Republicans. Now, before I get into DeSantis' map, I want to take a second to talk about Florida's 5th district. Florida's 5th is what's called a minority opportunity district. It's drawn to make sure that that minorities are able to elect a representative of their choosing. It's a court-ordered district. Nobody was even talking about getting rid of it. Even the most biased maps kept the 5th district intact. DeSantis' map breaks up the 5th district into 4 strong Republican districts. And in case there was any question as to what he was doing, he went one step further by sending a letter to the Florida Supreme Court asking them for permission to get rid of the district. He sent that letter, by the way, on the first day of Black History Month. Dude, you know Black History Month's not a month where you make black people history, right? Never mind. He's not going to get it. He's not going to get it. Don't worry about it. Never mind. Now, of course, he's being accused of racism, of being a racist, but he's not racist, okay? Just the other day, he condemned Nazis. Or at least, he condemned people calling on him to condemn Nazis. He said the word Nazi and condemn in the same sentence. It's more you can say for this guy. Anyway, even if Florida does go nuclear, it's clear that some of the more dire predictions about what redistricting would mean for Democrats is not going to come true. But just because redistricting isn't so bad for Democrats doesn't mean it's not so bad for democracy. In the 31 states that have finished their maps so far, there are only 18 highly competitive districts. That is less than 1 district per state, not even counting the 6 states that only have 1 congressional district. At this point in the last redistricting cycle, there were about 40 competitive districts. That's more than a 50% drop in competitive seats. This means that for the vast majority of the country, elections will essentially cease to exist. They'll be empty gestures. Basically, the state legislature has already decided. Oh my God. He was right. The state legislature can decide elections. Yeah, I bet you didn't think you were getting a Home Alone reference. That's all the time I got for you tonight. I'm Tommy Meyer, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think of my videos by commenting down below. And if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to me on the YouTube or share this with a friend. The possibilities are 3. Good night.